In this video, I'm going to be taking you through what's in my backpack. So in my mobile business, I have to drive from house to house or court to court or ranch to ranch, wherever I am servicing my clientele. And so there are certain things that I always am carrying with me in my bag to make sure that I am able to treat them with what I need to. Now, I'm going to keep this video more on the simple side of just showing you what's in my backpack, as opposed to everything that I load up in my car. But these are the kind of tried and true, what I tend to use every single time that I'm in session with a client. First and foremost, something I'm always carrying with me is my iPad. I have some important apps on here that I'm constantly using, like Complete Anatomy or Visible Body. Those are the two anatomy apps that I reference a lot in my education with my clients, with my patients, whoever I'm working with. Just helps them get a better understanding of what's going on inside their body and how it's all connected. So it's kind of a fun way to bring some clarity, a little bit more of an in-depth view for anybody that I'm working with. I also have Notability, which is kind of where I jot down the majority of my notes before I convert them into my actual soap notes, but it's just the stuff that I want to make sure I'm not forgetting when I'm actually going through them. I also draft and create my ANF protocols on Notability. There's some nice templates that the Academy gave us as PDFs, so I just keep that all on here. It's nice because I can color code any of the devices that I'm trying to go for. So ultimately, those are my main apps that I'm using on my iPad when I'm seeing my clients. I just leave that slipped in the back there. Just in case I ever need to reference it, I keep my little notebook from when I went to Anna Hartman's LTAP Level 1 in-person course in San Diego. Okay, now we're going into the actual tools that I use. I'm just going to take all these out and then kind of talk about them in order as I put them back into my backpack. Okay, so I have my Tune Up Fitness kit. It's their Role Model Starter Kit. And I've also dropped in a couple other extra things that I do in here, so I'll go through that in a second. This is my ANF bag. All of my devices that I keep for ANF are in here, so I'll go through that in a second. So that's my little ANF bin. I've got my blood pressure cuff. I've got my dynamic cups and cream, and I've got my goniometer. And I've got a couple of my soft tissue tools, instrument soft tissue tools, Graston tools specifically for these ones if I'm ever needing to do more deep soft tissue work. I'd like to get some other ones, but that's just what I have for now. And then I also have a tape measure when it is needed. So that's pretty much it. So you can kind of simplify it to, I have my more evaluation type stuff that I kind of get my measurements updated on. I do have a dynamometer that I will use as well if I'm wanting to be a little bit more specific with muscle tests for gross MMT or for hand grip dynamometry. I have that as well. That I usually only use at evaluation day, but these I kind of tend to reuse and revisit every single time that I'm in session with someone. And then you can say oh, okay, here are my soft tissue tools that I use. I have some of my exercises and activity tools in here, and then ultimately my ANF stuff. So with this cardio blood pressure cuff, I like it because it's Bluetooth. I can connect it to my phone. And so off of my phone, that's how I'm able to actually test blood pressure for people. It's nice. I can just slide it right on. I'll use this to test myself, right? And I have visitor mode on the app so I can test and see, okay, without it overriding my own personal stats. So I like it because it's quick to assemble and put away. Sometimes it can be a little finicky, and I do have to replace the batteries because they do take batteries as opposed to being rechargeable. But overall, this has been really, really handy just if there is any concern, especially for people that are maybe a little older or who have a history of heart issues. I definitely like to make sure that I have this ready for me to go. So that's one of my evaluation tools. Of course, goniometer, especially when I'm working with people where we're trying to improve whether it's passive or active range of motion. Tape measure is really helpful for measuring any sort of swelling in the area, I have a larger one that I'll use too if I need to measure distance on the floor. Like for example, when I'm at the pickleball court and I'm needing to kind of measure for an agility T-test or something like that. But again, that's mostly for evaluation stuff, but I keep that in my backpack. And then here I have my dynamic cups. I just bought these off of Amazon way back in the day, and way back in the day, it's not been that long. But yeah, I just have a few different sizes. It's kind of nice. They can nest into one another, but realistically, because of how often I pull them out, I sort of just grab them. And then I have reused this little lotion case to keep all of my soft tissue cream in there. So that's kind of a nice quick little grab bag for all of my dynamic cups, and I'll use that more often. And then, like I said, I have my Graston tools or instruments that I use for soft tissue, so that I'm not overusing my hands and my fingers. I am recovering from trigger finger right now, which is why I have some ANF on my hand just momentarily. But these I will also keep in here, so these are helpful for soft tissue work. And then in here, I've got my Tune Up fitness tote, but I've stuffed a whole bunch of other stuff in here that are helpful for me. So for example, I have my little smaller bag that contains all my resistance bands, whether they're the looped bands or like the longer bands that I'll use, depending on what exercises I'm having the individual do. I'll pull these out and we'll use those. So I have the resistance bands there, and then I have the Coregeous ball, which I use for a bunch of different soft tissue stuff, breathing stuff. A lot of this I have taken from Anna Hartman's course, her LTAC course. These are resources that we use, and so I've just kind of adopted them into a lot of my methodology, and I will include these in kind of like a goodie bag for my clients that sign on to a new program with me. So I have my Coregeous ball here. I have a therapy ball. This is the plus version. There's also just like the regular version, which is a little smaller. I have the alpha ball, which is a nice soft tissue ball. And then this one I also bought extra and just shoved in here. This is just the Franklin Method ball, 4-inch diameter, off of their website. This is something that Anna Hartman uses a lot as well in some of her soft tissue work. So all of these are what I include in my goodie bag to my clients, because most people already have access to resistance bands or they own resistance bands already, but some of these soft tissue tools they don't usually have first. So this is kind of a nice fun little way to say like, hey, thanks for working with me, and I also want to make sure you have all the quote-unquote specialized tools that I tend to use with my clients, with the work that we do. Then for just my own organization, I keep my resistance bands in here just because I'm like, oh, after I'm done with this, more of the greater soft tissue stuff, or if I'm wanting to get into more specific exercises, then I just grab this out. Cool. And then last but not least, my ANF bag. ANF Academy did provide for me a bag, but it was kind of tough for me to reach from the top loading and kind of find all my devices. With this, I like that it opens up sideways, so I can actually filter through each of them vertically before I pull them out. But ultimately, what I keep in here, I have my Skin Tack liquid adhesive in case I need to make it stick again. I've got scissors for whenever I am putting together protocols or cutting tape. I have tachyderm tape as well that I need to replenish. So this is kind of nice to put over the devices, especially if I know that they're going to go swimming or sweating or something like that. Then this is helpful to keep it down. And I will also give them a little readhesive wipe too that comes from like basically the same company, so that they can reapply basically a wipe version of this instead of carrying around a whole bottle, because they don't need the whole bottle. I tend to use it. But yeah, here is my collection of ANF devices at the moment. So there's different ANF devices for different functions, and I explain this all the time to my clients, based on what resources we need to give to your body, that's what determines which ones we use. So I've put this together kind of from my my mentor instructor and the partner Santi the PhysioSensei. He kind of groups them together, just ties a rubber band around them, and uses that as his way to just drop them together and keep them organized based on color slash function. So this is my little grab bag for ANF, which is also very handy. So again, like I have sub bags in my bigger backpack so that depending on what stage of the treatment session I am in, I can just reach in and grab this right away, and it's easy to access anything that I need for that particular function or for that particular session, piece of the session. So I keep all of that there, and then I just have my other basic stuff, like my wallet, my keys, and gum, and hand sanitizer, wet wipes, my notebooks, just like basic stuff like that. But as far as what actually gets to work and engage with my clients, that is what's in my bag, in my clinic bag, whenever I go see my clients in my mobile practice. So if you have any questions about any of the products in here, I'm going to link them in the description. If you have any additional questions or comments or things that have worked with you in your bag or anything else you want to see as far as how I put this together, feel free to leave me a comment. And yeah, I'm here to help give you as much information, kind of peel back the curtain of what it looks like to work as a mobile PT. And until then, we will see you in the next video.